Hello, and in this video we are going to spawn particles based on impact data from a simulation in Houdini. So let's start here in Houdini. So I have my simulation setup. So when I press play, I have this front of the pig head blowing up. So the simulation is, of course, we start with the pig head, then I will fracture it into a material. So we create different chunks to actually have destruction. Then I would assemble this into packed geometry. So each fractured piece is a packed geometry, and this allows me to then select an area here that is going to be destroyed. So this area is destroyed. So if I move my sphere around, I can destroy other areas as well. Now, based on that group selection, so group 1, I'm going to add point velocity. So on group 1, I will add certain velocity that the animation knows where to send the pieces to. Then I'm also going to use here using an attribute called active. So when active is value 1, it will enable this in the simulation to be simulated. If this is 0, that means that there will be no simulation on pieces with attribute 0. So now combining this in the powerful rigid body solver, we can now play this animation, and this is all set up for you with this node. To continue to bring this in game engine, I'm going to use a node called destruction cleanup. So this will basically clean up a bit of the geometry here. Like if you enable chunks, it will basically merge this part together, and each of these separate chunks here will then be converted to bones. So we can still play around here with some settings to get rid of, for example, the very smaller chunks and merge them together. But if you're happy with this result, we need to then export this. And we can do this by going here into the output. And we're going to use a node called rigid body to an FBX. So we basically say which node we want to have as an FBX. And then we also say where we want to save it and press render. And then we have this as an FBX file. You can then bring that file into Unreal. I will show that quickly here. So here in Unreal, you can already see my pig head over there. And in the model here, when you import it, you will automatically see here the skeletal meshes and so on. So if I check my animation here, we will have this result here in the animator. Now for the part where we are going to use Niagara, we need to get the impact data. With the rigid body bullet solver, we have here an impact tab, and we can enable impact data. So with this impact data, we're going to have to set some specific settings, and we're going to press this button that says fetch impacts. When you're pressing this button, a object node will be created. So one of these nodes will automatically be created, and it will return basically a bunch of points where impact information is happening. So this can then be used in the Niagara system. One trick here is to make sure you are using the correct settings. So you're going to have to fine tune this a bit more based on your model. So the default settings might not give a proper result. So you're going to have to fine tune some of the values here. So normally what you should see is when you play the animation, you should just see a bunch of points appearing. Now I can play around with this and, for example, delete points that are not in the frame range. So we just see each frame where impact is happening. So at specific frame numbers, I can see now certain impacts happening. I also have here another impact data, which might be a little bit different in the result and give less points. So you can connect this here to our Niagara node. Similar as before, we're going to set a frame range. We're going to save out the file, and we're going to set our attributes to make sure we are outputting the right attribute. I would further always like to visualize this here by a sphere. So when I actually here play my animation, I can see some of the spheres appearing. As you can see here, whenever a piece is hitting it, we can see that there will be a particle spamming there. So you can see that nicely happening, especially here when there is a lot of debris hitting the floor. So now with our file being exported, we can now go into Unreal Engine. So here I already imported the pig head impact data, and we are going to again here go to our effects and create a Niagara system. So here I'm going to start again from the Houdini Niagara basics, press finish, and then big head, impacts. Then in here we need to replace our point caches. So with the big head information, so bring that in over here. And as you can see, we should normally see some of the points. Oh, here we go. Now we can see the points. So again, I have to readjust the frame range. So let me double check. We have around 3.3 seconds. So let me change the loop to then also 3.3. So that will work better. So now we have these points going around. Now what you might notice is that they are constantly moving. So they constantly move around in the scene. But in Houdini, when these points were placed around, they were not moving. So here you can see that they are fully animated. But in Houdini, if I would watch here my points, we can see that every frame there are just points going in and out, spamming particles. So what is happening actually here is actually here with this sample Houdini cache, this is what is causing the animation. So this goes a bit more advanced, showing you how to even customize this workflow even more. You can actually double click on this and you can see the network of how we are getting these attributes. And what I'm mainly interested in now is how the position is being created. And at the top here, we can already see get position. And what is happening here is that we get the position from previous frame and the next sample. And then we basically lerp between them. So we blend between the previous one and the next one. So that is what is causing the animation. So it has a nice transition between position A and position B. But in this case, I don't want the blending. So we can play around with that. So what I did is I created a new module. And if I just type in here Houdini, I have Houdini custom point cloud. And this is actually the same module, but I only skipped the previous version. I don't need a lerp, so I just need the next point information. So that can be useful here as well, and to show you how you can customize this. So first step, if you want to customize this as well, we can here go click on browse, and now we have access to these files, these custom templates, and you can just make a duplicate. So we can duplicate this file, and I made here that duplicate called sample Houdini custom point cloud, and in that duplicate I just here again, like I showed before, I skipped the previous position and focused on the next position. So again, this can be interesting if you want to have very customization in there and want to build your own workflow. You can adjust this file, and you can, for example, also add attributes. Like if you are using, for example, a specific attribute, you can call them here as well by using here this node, for example, and calling custom attributes that you would like to have. Now I placed my custom module here, and of course we need to add here the Houdini cache. And pressing play now, we should see now this effect. And as you could see, we have now the effect where each frame we only have like a few points created here and there. So it's not like constantly creating that. So the next step is I want to use these points here that you can see in my scene, and I want to spawn another particle system. And we already have a template for you. So if you go to emitter and you type in Houdini, you will see here spawn from a Houdini location event. So this is the node that I want to use. So we are going to create an event in the first node, and this will then trigger here my other node. Now to create an event, we need to actually here go to particle update, and we can just type in event. we want to generate a location event. Now further, we don't have to do anything here. We can still adjust, for example, the rate it is sending. And also one more thing here is there is a small error, and we can double check that here in the log. And we have some issues with the requires persistent ID. And if we go here to the emitter properties, we actually need to enable requires persistent ID. And we enable this and the error is gone. So we just need to enable that toggle for that event. And then here, when we want to receive an event, we are going to here go to the event handle properties. And the source from my event will come from this location node. So click on this and it will automatically create the link here. You can see the name of this node in Houdini Niagara, and it will automatically then spawn these pink particles, as you can see. So if I now play the animation here, we can see that we have now these pink particles spawning. So we can make this a bit interesting by, for example, adding some wind force there, fix issue here, and I want them to go up like so. I'm also going to align the lifetime here as well to the same. This is also quite interesting, as you can see. If I still use the normal point cache, we have this nice trail following these impact data. So that can also be useful. Now what we can do further here is we can, instead of using the normal material, I can use one of my smoke sprite sheets that I used before. So plugging in my smoke here. So I'm gonna set it by 5 by 5. And I'm gonna also add the animation here. So I have 25 frames. And let's also create a scaling for the sprite. So scale sprite. And I want this to be a float. And then from the float, I'd like to have the curve. Now I like the smoke also to start somewhat small and then go bigger in size. Like that. Let's see how that looks. I'm also going to set the looping of my first particle to only once. So I only want to trigger the impact data one time and let the smoke fade out. That looks okay. The smoke is way too much intense, of course. So maybe also change the color to a normal smoke color, maybe make it more subtle. Let's play around with the alpha. Like that's a bit better, a bit more subtle. Maybe the size was too much. We can again add some more random in there, like I did before. We can add some randomness. We can also do rotation, so sprite, rotation rate. So they are rotating, so they don't look the same always. And I guess just generally adding here like a random range here of the size can be interesting. So let's say from 5 to 15 maybe. That looks a bit better. Now also my first particle, it's still spawning these little points, but we actually don't need that anymore. It will automatically trigger that particle still. And you can clearly see that we are triggering it from a specific point. Now to make this even more nicer, we can also, for example, copy this and we can spawn debris models. So instead of having the sprite renderer, I want to spawn a mesh. So let's do a mesh renderer. And I'm probably going to have to delete here some of the sprites animation that I created. And I have a debris chunk in my folder, so debris piece. And you can see the debris pieces here flying around. And I want to overwrite the material as well. So now they are this darker color. We should also add some mesh rotation. So particle spawn, tap in mesh rotation. And I want to use a random vector. And as you can see now we have some more random rotations there. Now what's also a bit weird is that my particles go up, so let's also delete the wind force here. And I want it to have gravity because it's like a wheel, like a chunk of debris. So let's do gravity force. And let's also add collision. So if I place it in my scene, we have collision with it. Now further what I would like to do is I would like it to shoot from something. So let's go to particle spawn, and when it spawns I want it to have a little like certain velocity, and I like to use the cone one, so cone in velocity, and I would like it to shoot up in the air, so I'm going to use the z-axis here, and let's play around with the strength. So this is too much, but you can see the effect that I'm going for. So maybe something around, let's say 400. And I'm going to quickly drag that in here in my scene, just to get like a first look of it. And that doesn't look that bad. So this is the basic setup you would need for this particle. Of course, you can add more, make this better, but you get all the data you need to explore this idea further on creating particles on impact data. Now here in my scene as well, I created actually a blueprint from this, and when I walk around it closely, it will automatically explode, like you could see here. Now I can quickly also show you how you can do this. So I create a blueprint, and in this blueprint I have 3 objects. So I have the box that is triggering the event, I have my Niagara particle at the middle, and I also have that big head or skeletal mesh also at the middle in my scene. Now from this box I will use here one of the trigger hits. So when something is overlapping with it, I want you to trigger the animation. So it will automatically create then this node. So when there is an overlap, trigger the animation. So play the animation of my skeletal mesh, which is my big head. Then also activate my particle. So it will spawn the particles. Then after a few seconds, it will also then deactivate the particle back again. And in here in this case, I say after 8 seconds, just fully reset the animation. So after 8 seconds, everything is just back to normal as you see here in my scene. And that is how we can create a simple logic here for this. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.